Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I'm Ben here with Dylan and Brian to talk about episode 11 of Survivor 47. We're only 3 weeks out from the finale here. I guess 2 weeks out from finale part one and 3 weeks out from finale part two, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
That's gonna be weird. That's gonna be very strange. But I thought it was an enjoyable episode. A little straightforward, all things considered. If you had asked me who was gonna get voted off coming into this episode, probably would have said Kyle. And it was Kyle, but they did throw us a little bit of intrigue with Genevieve as a potential other boot. So all in all, I was happy with this pre-Thanksgiving episode. What do you think, Dylan?
This was a bridging episode into the rest of the season. I think none of us here probably thought Kyle was going to win. I like Kyle as a character. I thought he was a nice kind of just like a very wholesome asset to add into the season overall. But I'm not at all surprised by tonight. I thought a great immunity challenge. I kind of left it up. Yeah, of course, him being in it added much more suspense. But no, good, a good, not great episode, especially coming off of a really, really good episode last week. But sometimes those straightforward episodes are the ones you need, especially in Survivor, where I feel like sometimes they shoehorn in so many other things into the episode when it should be straightforward. That's unnecessary. So I didn't mind it. I thought it was a nice little relaxing episode going into it. I agree. I think there even was that little bit of intrigue and excitement going into Tribal, wondering who was who. But I thought it was pretty obvious it was going to be Kyle.
Yeah, I thought that while the episode overall was pretty straightforward, I thought there was a lot of good pieces in it that we can get through. A lot of good like kind of story beats, and I think especially in hindsight, knowing now that Kyle is the one that got voted off, the scene where we have Genevieve, Sam, and Kyle coming together and kind of each like they have a conversation and then we kind of each kind of focus on them one by one as they do like a retrospective of their game and how they have to kind of like change their perspective based off of how the season has gone for them. And we kind of get Sam and Genevieve both being like, yeah, I was running the game up until, a few rounds ago. And I was doing that with deception and lying. And now I kind of have to like play a little bit differently. Or like in Genevieve's case, she's like, I'm going to play similarly, but I'm going to try to keep emotion out of it, which is bad. We'll talk about Genevieve a lot, I think, in this episode. I have a lot to say about Genevieve. But Kyle was a very different vibe than them, where he was like, I've been playing like this very kind of honest, basic game with not a lot of like standard Survivor deception up until the Gabe boot, where I'm like, I worked to vote somebody out who I was buddies with, and I have to like live with that guilt now, and I have to like, reanalyze myself to like, can I play this game? And I thought it was interesting that the one of the three that was like transitioning from playing less ruthless to playing more ruthless was the one who ended up getting voted out, while the two that were transitioning from more ruthless to less ruthless gameplay are the ones who stayed.
There was a few things that stuck out to me in this episode, and one of which is that Genevieve is as dead in the water as I think it comes. I think maybe next to Sue, I think I would be most shocked if Genevieve won this season going forward. I think she has next to no power left in this game. And kind of you touched on it too, Ben. I think like when Genevieve, when they were interviewing her, she basically went in the opposite direction you think somebody would, where we see a lot in Survivor that these arcs are, especially with Andy at the moment. You have these arcs where they build a character. Like Andy obviously was at rock bottom at the beginning of the season. Now he's up to where I think that he's the smartest person when it comes to making moves in this game. And I think he's playing the smartest at the moment. Where Genevieve is going the opposite direction, where I feel like her character continues to kind of spiral down, where I think she is going to make a very, very interesting potential returnee for 50, where she would be the sense of like, Genevieve kind of crashed out completely when she decided to make that move against Saul. And we continue to see it in this episode too, where she's like, instead of actually aligning with our allies and staying close to them, I think that it's much easier for myself and my conscience to just not make any friends at all, which is just insane. It's like the insane self-awareness. It's insane. Like, oh, so we learned nothing at all from what has happened. I agree. I think Genevieve is very, very interesting. I think it's very refreshing too to have like somebody that's so like unscripted and human compared to what we've gotten in some previous seasons. I think Genevieve is very, very, very much being herself, or being herself on the island. Like she said that she's the opposite when she's back at home. Obviously, we have no idea if that's true, but I think that Genevieve is definitely not trying to pretend to be somebody that she's not. And that is refreshing, but it's also completely just destroyed her game, which has been very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. It is interesting to kind of be like, I'm compartmentalizing this, but also like, it's not, how to put this. Compartmentalizing is effective in Survivor when you get to the end and you're like, I've been through so much with this person, but they're going to beat me. What is not good is when you're like, I'm cutting everything off from everybody, and I'm going to be open to betraying them to the detriment of my own game, which is what I think Genevieve did. And I think she is realizing that now, and to kind of like, I don't even know if like this is the right way to put it, but to kind of like obfuscate her own like responsibility in the downfall of her own game. She's like, well, I made that move because I'm cutthroat and I'm not playing emotionally, instead of being like, oh, I made a bad move and it potentially ended my game. It's kind of like a way to be like, God, I was just playing so hard, and you know, that's what did me in. When it's like, were you playing hard or were you playing dumb?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the compartmentalization idea is like really good, because like from what I'm seeing right now is Genevieve, instead of compartmentalizing, is basically taking one of the compartments and just throwing it away because she doesn't like it. And it's like that's not productive. It's not like, it's the Survivor is a social game. You can't just be like, I'm going to ignore the social aspects because they make me feel bad. It's like, you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah, and it's like there is room for that, but I think it's closer to the end of the game where it's like, you know, like Jesse voting off Cody.
Yeah, or like,
I don't
want
want
to
like
Tony voting out Trish.
Tony voting off Trish. Yeah. Someone who actually won. Yeah, where it's like, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this, more than like, I don't have to do this, but I want to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and I know Genevieve is like a lot of people's like queen. They love her. We've been pretty down on her for voting off Saul. And, you know, yeah, we like Saul. That was like a little bit like, oh, that's disappointing. But I do think it was also us being like, this doesn't make sense long term. And we're not going to like cheer on a dumb move. We're gonna, just because we like the player. And before that, we had been very high on Genevieve. It's like she spent the beginning of the game really building all this social capital, and then she just like burned it at the very first opportunity, and now is like, I have no options. I can't believe this.
Yeah, we said at the time that she was making the Saul move with zero off ramp. Like I spent like 2 or 3 minutes on that in the episode trying to like devise like a logic for it, where like she doesn't need an off ramp, like Survivor is different in the new era, blah blah blah. That clearly wasn't the case. Like, she didn't have an off ramp. We're seeing the result of her not having an off ramp.
Also, you say we're stall guys too, which obviously we are. We still are. I was a Genevieve guy up until that episode. I thought that she was in a great spot. I think we all pretty much agreed at that point she was the favorite to win.
She was great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the beautiful thing about Survivor is everybody has a different opinion of moves. Some people are very wrong on a lot of the time.
Right opinion, you come here for the right opinion.
Everyone's entitled to their wrong opinions. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Brian. I think we deserve a little credit of like immediately calling it out, that it was a bad move. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Genevieve would have to do. I think the big takeaway from this episode is I think it's very, very clear to me now that there is a half of this group that can win, and there's a half that's not going to win. And I think Genevieve falls into that half that is not going to win at this point, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it really was the breakdown of like these 5 have a shot, different shots all across the board. Some less of a shot than others in the 5, sure, but the 5 of them are still alive, and those 3 are just completely drawing dead. We're just waiting to see like when their number is going to get pulled at this point, because there's really like I like Sam. What does he have to offer anybody at this point? Like nothing. Even Genevieve, like I did think that there was some interesting like minor social maneuvering here where it's like Andy, it's better for Kyle to stay for Andy because they seem to have a working relationship, at least like we're shown them talking at several points, and Andy being like very upfront with him, and like if Kyle stays, maybe that's an option for Andy. Whereas like I do think Genevieve is a better option for a player like Carolyn, who in this, episode was very complimentary of her and very much like, oh, like some legendary Survivor player once said this. And I think like I don't know if that's going to lead anywhere, but it does give Carolyn some more options here in this end game, which I did really like from her.
So I'm like actually thinking aloud now at this point. There's 7 left, right? Correct? Is there 7
Correct.
left or 8 left?
7
So in order of now who I think has I'm going to go who I think has the best chance to win to not. I'm going to put Rachel first, who I think Rachel's arc in this episode was very clearly the music, the edit, everything. They're either building Rachel up to be the winner that loses at Fire or something like that, or the person that wins this game. I think Andy is 2 for me. I think Andy, we're clearly seeing Andy, I think, has to make one gigantic move to win at this point. And then he clearly, like we talked about last week, he's going to have to articulate that at Final Tribal. So we have Rachel, Andy, and then I put Teeny third. I think Teeny's course is sort of similar to Annie's, where I feel like she has to pull, and I still think it's going to be Genevieve. She has to pull that like cutthroat vote to get somebody out. And then I throw Carolyn at 4th. I think Carolyn has like some sort of path to do something. I don't know if she can win. I think Carolyn can make final 3, potentially final 2, which is my theory, my big twist of the season. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's like, I want to throw it out there. I want to throw shit at the wall in case that happens. And then I have Sam, Genevieve, and Sue as the first 3 out, where I just don't see a path that either of them win. Genevieve, it almost feels deceptive at this point if Genevieve won, just because like the edit itself is clearly just shown just how much of a dumb mistake she's made. And I think it's kind of piling on now, especially with this evidence from this episode, that like she didn't learn from those mistakes. She's kind of taking like the opposite lesson from it. But yeah, I agree. I think I like Sam. I just don't think I just don't think it's anything there. Maybe he wins out in immunity. I just still don't even think he can win a vote in the end.
Yeah, I said it in our group chat, but he reminds me a lot of Jake, where it's like when he has a confessional, it's like, yeah, what he's saying makes sense, but it doesn't matter. Like no one's giving him an in. So like he can be as aware of everything and going on as he wants, but it doesn't matter.
I think it showed to how, which is why I think Andy deserves way more credit. I think it showed with Andy turning his back on that tribe. I think even though Sam was the one that go home that day, I think it really, really kneecapped Sam when Sierra was voted out.
Yeah. He has no one to blame but himself in this.
I think Sierra takes a lot of blame too, but
yeah, sure. But I mean, they were a tandem. He could have at least let Andy know that it was coming, that he was catching votes. But to allow Andy to feel the way he felt after that merge vote was, as we've said, just like completely unacceptable modern era Survivor.
Unforced error.
Yeah. And you know what? Good for Andy for recognizing his position and being willing to grab a hold of the game. The one thing I am concerned about is the perception thing that we talked about last week. Granted, it's not like Ponderosa, but there was like a video of Sierra at Ponderosa posted to Instagram this week where she gave Andy credit for her demise. And like, that's, I think, good that there is actually the perception that Andy is like a player in this game. Is Sierra going to be salty about it? That's like what's unclear to me right now. And I think because we don't have the Ponderosa videos anymore, which sucks.
I think, especially with recent events too, like, are we going to get a bitter jury, like, say, like Carla and Jesse? Like, they're going to be bitter that they were outplayed by someone that they undermined.
Be careful, Joe. You got to be careful, Dylan. If you say that online, people will come for you.
I am not scared. I'm like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of pretending like Carla and Jesse were right with that whole thing. They were wrong, and I'm sick of pretending like they were right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've just noticed that if you voice that opinion, people get so mad at you. And
I've been of the opinion, like, you're allowed to be a bitter juror, and the only time I get annoyed by it is when you like try to lie to me when you're clearly being a bitter juror.
Just own it.
It's like the Maria effect. Like, I wouldn't care what Maria did if she didn't like try to gaslight the audience that she wasn't being bitter, right? It's the same thing with Carla and Jesse. It's like, yeah, you were bitter against Cassidy, like you didn't like Cassidy, like, okay, that's fine. Just say that.
Yeah.
I think that's more so. I'm sick of pretending like Jesse and Carla weren't villains in the end of that whole thing, rather than they were just straight up bitter jurors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So very, very, very similar to Maria. Very, very. It's a very, very similar thing where I do think it was a vote that was completely done through emotion and spite, which is fine, which is why we like to watch this, which is why we want the actual emotions out of people. But like you said, Ben, don't lie to us and say it wasn't.
Yeah. Yep. Well, if people listen to this, they'll come for us. That's fine. Please do.
Hey, we can any good
I'm
news.
Really I'm defending their right to be bitter.
Yeah.
I just like don't like, I think it's just silly to pretend that that's not the case.
Yeah. Agreed. So what do we think of the journey this week?
It's fine.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. It was interesting, at least. It was like a different
visually interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, the puzzle was kind of dumb, but it's like the visual of it was neat, but I'm glad there wasn't a lost vote, I guess.
If you're asking me from a strictly like game piece of like her going out there, like, I thought it was fine. It was, different, we want things that are different but not dumb, but it was dumb in the sense that she could have lost her vote. And in my opinion, it's dumb in the sense that she's going to have the ability to steal a vote this late in the game. So
someone's either her or somebody she blocked.
Having that happen this late in the game through something that's going to be completely where these people have no control. And obviously we've seen that a lot recently. It seems like something that can potentially spoil the season for us, which I'll hate, but I can't, I can't worry about the worst case scenarios at this point. Let's just hope it works out for the best.
Yeah.
My
be ready for it not to.
My hope is it's next week, and my hope is that it's something like Teeny convincing Rachel to just steal Genevieve's vote, which makes the most sense out of based on who's left and where they're trying to go.
Yeah, well, since this is a block of vote, there's almost like
block of
the only like time it matters is on odd votes. So like, I don't know if they'll do it next week, but certainly final 6 is a likely spot to have a majority of 3 at 6. Like, that's fairly enticing.
Do you guys feel pretty confident with that group now of Teeny, Rachel, Andy, Sue, and is it Carolyn or Caroline?
Carolyn.
Right? Okay.
Right. Now you got me saying.
I think I've said both.
I think about it every time we get off of recording. I'm like, did I say it? Is it Carolyn or Caroline? Who knows? But it's something about that group makes it seem like now where sometimes I don't mind the easy pick off of 2 or 3 people before going into final five, because I think it adds an extra element now where we have all these friends who are immediately going to turn, then you don't really know which way it's going to go. Something I think this is where that's kind of where though we'll see if Andy has the ability to do something where it's starting to finesse that. Maybe he tries to take out Rachel. Maybe he tries to take out Teeny. I'm not entirely sure. That's my perception, at least, of the people on the island too. It seems like that's how they're perceiving the peers. Sue especially, it seems like people like Sue, but I think also people would just want Sue as that vote, and I think they've figured out a very, very easy way to try to rope her in, which is okay, because I've said before, I said that I've been impressed by Sue overall. Where if you asked me the first episode to where we are at now, I think overall I'm pretty impressed with her game, especially for a female that is middle aged. I think this era of Survivor being able to play the game she's done has been impressive, but I don't think that people are taking her seriously in terms of like actual winning a winning trek.
Yeah, here's my prediction: is Sam goes next, has like a Muslim majority, and then Rachel uses her block a vote on one of Carolyn, Sue, and Genevieve. Vote off Carolyn probably, and then we'll see what happens after that. But those are for the next two. What I think could happen. I don't think that 5 is going to be the final 5.
Like, so are you looking down you're looking at Rachel being the one to make a move towards like a Rachel Andy Teeny final 3?
That's what I think.
And then you think Rachel wins that? I
think Rachel wins that final because I think Andy's getting the like growth edit, the Spencer Bledsoe 2.0. Like, I didn't understand how to play Survivor because I wasn't connected with, my personal, but now I've become a better person and I understand Survivor, but it's not enough to win. And then Teeny, I think also has like a similar like growth, but more like on a personal level where she's talked about her, gender identity and like what that means to her and like how the game has kind of made her realize things about herself in that way. Whereas like Rachel's story has strictly been like game, like she's in a good position. Now she's in a bad position. Now she's getting idols, she's getting advantages, but it's all like strictly the game,
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been very harsh on Rachel, and I'll continue to be harsh on her, even in this episode, even though she had a very good episode. But I do agree, it does feel like we're being pushed like a winner story for her. And it's very odd because again in this episode she doesn't get her way. Like she falls ass backwards into an advantage. Obviously she had to do the puzzle and that was like very impressive, but like she only was in that position because of a 1-in-3 rock draw to begin with, that she was kind of like hamstrung into doing in the first place. And then again she doesn't like, she wanted Genevieve out here and she didn't get her way. So it's a very odd winner story that we're getting if Rachel does end up becoming the winner, because like she's just kind of not been strategically relevant for the entire season, but she's been like socially good, and she's like kind of like fallen into good fortune. So I don't know, it's like very odd. I think the end game for her is going to have to be like really good, for us to get like kind of a flashy moment for her or something.
Yeah, and it might involve blocking the vote and playing her idol.
Yeah,
as in front of the jury, like, oh wow, she really controlled the end game, and that'd be a very modern Survivor way to win Survivor.
Yeah,
it's like you're kind of irrelevant until the final 7, and then you pull a couple of flashy moves. It's almost the Chris Underwood like style of winning Survivor, but at least Rachel's in the game the whole time.
At least kind of like the foundations were there way earlier than like a winner like Erica was, though. I feel like Erica's kind of the default of the new era to go back to, being like she didn't have the edit at all. And I know it's a big debate in the Survivor community too, of whether or not she was deserving based off the edit, of like people being like, well, she didn't get the edit to show she was a winner, but like clearly things we didn't see, we know she should deserve to be a winner. At least with Rachel, there's like the foundations there where I think if Rachel won, if you told me now that Rachel won, I would be okay with it. Where like if we were at the stage where you told me Erica won that season, I'd be like, what? Like that's crazy. So
I think a lot of people would agree with you that like even to the finale, it's like, does Erica have any win equity? I don't think so, but that is the fault of the editors, not the fault of Erica. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Rachel, obviously, I'm not as harsh on her as you are, Ben, but I think that this episode was like a very clear of like she is one of 3 or 4 that are getting there in the end.
Oh, I mean, I
Yeah.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, I think the episode was very good for her from like a macro sense.
Yeah.
Like, she obviously gets the advantage. She has like a big swelling moment there. She wins immunity. She is the one who's like wins immunity in the round against Kyle that sends him home. Like, that's like a big tally on her like board or resume or whatever we want to call it. I'm just saying, like, if we actually kind of, strip away all of that gift wrapping and look at her actual journey through the game, it's not been impressive, and she has not really had any like serious agency basically the entire season.
It's seemingly all started with Saul throwing her a Hail Mary. And then from there on, she slowly, which she didn't return the favor to Saul in the end. But that's that. We talk about being cutthroat and Survivor. Sometimes that's what you got to do. I'm still very, very excited for the rest of the season. I think that first off, if Andy won this challenge tonight, when I got the notion when Andy was in the lead for like a split second. When I got the notion of Andy potentially winning immunity, I like got chills through my body. I got like of like, oh my god, he could actually win this. Like I think being that invested in a character and being able to watch it going forward, I sort of had that with Carolyn in 45, right, or 46, or I'm sorry, 45 or 44. 44. Yeah. I sort of had that with her. Now I'm having that with Andy, where I'm like, I'm so heavily invested in this player, but I do find myself really liking Rachel. I still really, really like Teeny. I think that her arc from last week made her story overall very, very likable. And I don't know, like Sue kind of drove me crazy with her whole hatred of Kyle, even though it was very comedic at times. But I find myself liking Sue. I sympathized with Carolyn this episode. I like Sam for the most part. I think having the ability where you have everybody at the end saying that you like them in some sort of fashion, and also like they're not complete posers. Like even then I said with Sue, I don't think she has any chance to win. And I'd be very, very unsatisfied with her winning, but I think that she had a very likable sense that she was a middle-aged woman. She found that immunity idol early on. She had the funny hatred of Kyle. Like there's just all those facets of there that have made this season so good that I think we're missing from all these previous seasons. And even then, we'll see what happens with this advantage, but the advantages in the idols have managed to stay out of the way of completely flipping the game on its head, which has been great. I don't know. Sometimes when I just sit back and think about the season, it's just been really, really good. I really hope they can keep it up moving forward. But if Andy starts going on a roll, I kind of get the complete. I might create like an Andy like Stan account on like Twitter and Instagram. Yeah. I might fall into that category of Survivor fans where I'm just completely all in on this one person. Like I'm posting pictures of Andy out at like a steakhouse, like in like Kansas City or wherever the hell he's from. Like I think that might become me.
Buffalo, right?
Is he from Buffalo? He's a Bills fan. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, we did it earlier in the season. We did an analysis of this because we were also confused where he was from. So I think he did live in Boston briefly.
Yeah,
picturing Andy part of like Bill's Mafia, like going through like fold up tables. That's great.
Hey, maybe one day we'll get that. Yeah, I'm less. Those accounts are really bad when it's for Big Brother because it's like 3 months of it. But 3 months of like every day tweeting a lot because the live feeds are 24/7 most of the time, and I guess it doesn't bother me as much with Survivor because it's just once a week, But yeah, there's some pretty horrible accounts on Twitter that are very annoying for Big Brother.
Yeah. One question I do have though about the vote do you think there's any sort of blowback of Teeny getting a vote? And my other follow-up question is, do they know who voted for who? Like it seems like they're more knowledgeable now than they used to be of who voted for who. Do you think it's laid out to them? Because I was trying to figure out who voted for Teeny. I honestly thought in my head it was Genevieve. To completely clear off the arc of like Genevieve might just be a scumbag, and it being Kyle, which I'm assuming Kyle. I don't know why Kyle did it. Genevieve had an idol. I have no idea.
I think he just didn't want to vote for Genevieve, probably, and he knew he was going out anyways.
What? Why do you think he wouldn't want to vote for Genevieve though?
He just probably felt like there weren't the numbers there, and he was like, I don't need to.
I mean, he literally did the "I have no idea" like pose when he was voting, like whatever, like it doesn't matter. Like he seemed like he knew he was dead in the water.
Because it seemed like Genevieve's Teeny's gut reaction was that it was Genevieve. I think based off, I'm trying to figure out whether.
I read pretty quickly that it was Andy voting for Genevieve as like a split vote because of Andy's answer in the tribal council. Like even before they showed the votes at the end, I was like, oh, okay, so that means Kyle voted for Teeny, and that means Andy voted for Genevieve to like make sure that was a split in case Kyle had an idol.
Once again, I was heavily invested in the wine and cheese during this episode. Maybe that was 100% the case, and I just didn't catch on.
I will find out in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah. I do.
Interesting.
It's an added element of somebody that's as like wholesome and kind of just like not realizing what he's doing in the moment of him voting for Teeny, of just maybe causing complete chaos back there on the island.
I think it was more like an old school style of like, I don't want to vote for my friend, so I'm just gonna throw my vote onto somebody.
So that's what I was following up with you on. Is it was Genevieve and Kyle like friends though? That like did I miss that? Did I miss?
They were friends in the sense that like they probably commiserated a lot in being on the bottom.
I guess when there were those three sitting around. Yeah.
Where it's like more friends of like circumstance than friends of like anything else of actual like bonds. There is some camaraderie in these types of games when you're on the bottom and you're on the bottom and it's just like this sucks and the other people are like this does suck for us. Which I think can be kind of fun in and of itself, just being like, well, there's nothing we can do, we just gotta hope that something breaks our way or we go on a run. And I think that's kind of where those three were at that point, especially after Genevieve was like, what do we think about targeting these kind of like jury goats? And that got shut down. She probably was like, okay, yeah, no, there's nothing I can do here.
Yeah. Again, she was very like that was like the point that was one of the only points in the episode I think she was like fully self-aware. Was like, yeah, I have zero like power, zero agency at this point because of your own actions. That's the part she's missing. Yeah. It's, the why is not important as long as she understands the what, and the what and the where. Like the why, leave that for the Monday morning quarterbacks. But
leave that to us, the Blindsiders, the Monday morning quarterbacks of Survivor.
Well, I mean, we were like the Saturday night quarterbacks because we saw it coming before Sunday even happened.
That's true. When Tony Romo used to be good at commentating and he could predict the plays before it happened, that was us.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. Anything else? I guess so I've been hard on Rachel. I want to at least point out something I think is good about her game. And this is kind of tying what Brian was saying earlier about his prediction of how he sees the season playing forward, where within this group of 5 underdogs, it gets formed. It did seem like Rachel has socially positioned herself as the fulcrum between these kind of two pairs in these like two groups of threes that she's floating between, where she's like having good conversations with Carolyn and Sue independently, sharing her advantage she gets with them as a duo, and then also going off and having these individual conversations with Andy and Teeny and solidifying that as a trio. I think that's really good. And like if we're gonna point to anything as to like why she might end up winning this game, I think like creating or like positioning herself in that place seemingly deliberately in that kind of social structure is probably what we're gonna see as like the fundamental reason.
Yeah, agreed. And it was kind of disappointing for me because, like, when that was kind of forming, I was like, "Oh, this is great for Teeny."
Mhm.
Teeny's gonna be 2 blue, 2 yellow, 1 red, right in the middle, perfect. And then Rachel just sniped that position
Mhm.
right out from under Teeny.
Yep.
She also had the advantage too, where I feel similar about Andy, where Andy's obviously kind of going through and slowly trying to build up those alliances with everybody. Whereas, especially with Sue and Carolyn, I think Rachel kind of locked them in very very easily. Especially Sue when she told them about the advantage she got. So yeah, I agree. I think she deserves that credit. I don't mind the way Andy's doing it, where I think Andy is slowly kind of like Kaiser Sozeing his ideology into everybody and getting ready to kind of go in for the kill. Whereas Rachel is just kind of like, hey, we should work together and you should trust me now. And now you trust me. Um, yeah, I agree. Like I said, I myself have been high on Rachel for a few episodes, but I also agree with the sense that, you know, up until maybe like 2 or 3 episodes ago, she was kind of just completely a floundering fish that ended up getting thrown a lifeline and was able to kind of work with that.
I do think it's also interesting. We are getting a preview. Like, you try not to read too much into the previews because they're usually misleading. But that like Andy might try to like supplant that position by maybe tying himself back to Sam and Genevieve and like try to reconstruct the social structure in a way that benefits him more than Rachel. I think that's probably like a decent move for him. And we even see in the preview Sam, doing another. He's done a lot of sports analogies and sports references this season. He starts off the season calling himself the glue guy, and like going on a huge exposition about what that means in terms of the sports terminology. And here in the preview, we see Sam calling Andy the straw that stirs a drink, which is a reference to the Reggie Jackson in baseball, the baseball player. And that, from my perspective, is an indication that maybe Andy is not dead in the water as a jury threat. Because if somebody like Sam is recognizing Andy as being in that position, like the straw that stirs the drink position, that is encouraging for me for his potential of being actually like lauded as a strategic asset in the game.
If I also wonder too, I wonder where Saul's at with all this, because my gut instinct would be that Saul is, if Teeny is there, would vote for Teeny. Maybe, I don't know. My other gut instinct is that Saul is loyal to nobody at this point, because I think that he himself probably feels pretty scorned overall. I mean, he was warned, but I wonder if that's what reels him into Andy, because Andy was right. It was Andy was the one that, or was Andy or Sam was the one that went to him
Sam did.
initially.
Sam went to him.
It was Sam. Okay. So, and then Andy kind of like then jumped on it after that, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if those are the 3 votes Andy can capture right off the bat. Like you said about Sierra saying she respects Andy for kind of working in the shadows with her. Who knows? Especially with New Age Survivor and some of the winners we've gotten recently and the votes we've had, it's so tough to tell kind of where the jury's mind's at. And it all, like we mentioned last week too, it all depends on kind of what the format of Final Travel is and kind of what that looks like for what the questions are being asked. Because if nobody suspects Andy going into it and he's not being asked any of the appropriate questions, that's it. Like, he's not going to win. He's not, like, because if no one's suspecting him, no one's appreciating the moves he's going to make, he has absolutely no chance of being able to articulate that. Like, he's going to be asked one question and then immediately go into a rant about something that's separate to try to prove his point, and it's going to make him look worse. So, beating a dead horse, but that's a whole nother like thing I mentioned last week of I just hate the current format of Final Travel. But I don't know. I'm like, I'm also just trying to talk myself into like a clear path that Andy can win it so I can go to sleep tonight. But yeah, Carolyn is a dark horse in the sense that I think people like her. I think she's clearly shown that she's like sweet to people, that she can relate to them on a very, very personal level, like we saw tonight with Genevieve. I think that's there's something to say for that, where I don't think she would be a satisfying winner, but I can understand why she would end up winning in the end. Whereas, nobody can tell a juror how to vote if that's like we've just mentioned, where if they're scorned, if they're spiteful, that's their right and that's fine. But don't lie to us. Where if somebody's like, Carolyn was nice to me, I was getting shit on from all ends, and Carolyn came to me and she, even though she was playing a game, she kept it real. Same thing with what happened with Sue tonight, where Carolyn made her move that she had to make, but was able to then reel Sue back in by just being honest, which is honestly, I feel like something that's rare that we see nowadays of that interaction happening. I think that's a path for her going forward. And I think Andy and Teeny just end up falling in the middle where they both have to make that move. And then Teeny, I think, will probably be a little bit more capable at tribal than Andy will be, because I think that she's been more liked overall. But I think that it's just weird how like the different totems and sides of all this, of like what the people will have to do to win. But it's we've named 4 people that have a path at this point, which I feel like before we haven't been able to do. Where before we're at like 1 or 2 at this point, and then they get blindsided. Then we're like, oh yeah, this person can now maybe win this because this person's now out. Where I think we have at least 4 where there's some sort of way that we're now saying that they can win. I think that's cool. It's good that the game has now enabled them to be able to be in that position.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll just have to wait and see. For now, it's so like, because there are potential winners, that's just like we can't. I have my prediction that I just gave, but that could be like so fucking wrong. Like
we could be here next week if Rachel voted out,
right?
And like all this, and Sue was the mastermind behind it, and then we're like, yeah, so Sue's the clear favorite at this point. That
would be a crazy
happened.
blindside, given that she has an idol and an advantage.
that has happened in some sort of fashion in the past like 5 seasons. So
yeah, Omar marching to a win, and then no, didn't even make the finale. So it'll be interesting. It's been good so far. Is there anything else that we wanted to touch on?
Do you want to talk about the challenge, Brian? I know you're.
Yeah, I made a joke that Rachel had the I upside down, and obviously Ben lost in Heroes, Healers, Hustlers because he had the U upside down, which is much more egregious, but very funny. I looked up because I was trying to find a picture of the Ben U, and again, Google doesn't work anymore, so you can't like find stuff like that easily. But I did find a Reddit thread where earlier in that season, when they did like this challenge, the tribe version of this challenge, one of the teams won also with an upside down eye. So that's something.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the stance is like I is like symmetrical enough, even though the font isn't symmetrical.
Yeah,
they use that like you can let it go, whereas you like no matter what the font is, it's like very clear. There's a top and a bottom.
Yeah, I think that's the Jeff Probst stance. Although, if I'm out there, I'm forcing Jeff to make a call on it. I'm gonna be like, Jeff.
Well, I mean,
nothing. That's an upside down letter.
The thing is, right? How many people could tell from the angle from like how far away they were? I don't think anybody could be able to tell. Like in post, it's very obvious because like we're looking at a close-up shot. But like when you're 20, 30 feet away from it, and you're also trying to focus on your own stack, and then she immediately drops her stack the second she wins. I doubt anyone even noticed.
No, definitely not. And like we said, because of precedent, doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Dylan, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, DJ Cleverlang on TikTok and Twitch, and I'm still on X. I haven't signed up for Blue Sky yet.
Not in Blue Sky with us quite yet.
Not yet. I still need to lock down that name, so I'm probably going to do it soon.
You got to do it.
I'm hoping to stream maybe once. My goal during this Thanksgiving break is going to be to stream one day or to do some sort of TikTok where I can get some sort of engagement. I had 2 videos where I got decent engagement on, so I'm hoping to do that, whether it's something like stupid, just like ranking like fucking like fast food chicken nuggets or something like that. Just something to get the old the momentum flowing my way. But no, just follow me on those, and And happy Thanksgiving to all listening and to my fellow co-host.
Yeah, I got my capture card working how I want it to with COD. So if you want to stream some COD, let me know.
I would love to. Let's lock down at least an hour this
Okay.
Thanksgiving break to do it together.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be fun. And then Ben, we can find some time to do some Hearthstone education. I'm gonna have to rewatch the videos we already filmed because it's been a minute. I definitely need to play some more games. But you've been streaming. Do you wanna plug that?
I streamed once, to be fair.
Oh yeah. You didn't have to say that. But
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to stream last weekend as well, but I was pretty tired, and also like I am kind of frustrated with Hearthstone right now, but it's like,
right.
It's gotten better. But I might stream the Bazaar this weekend,
Nice.
maybe Saturday or Sunday, and then I would definitely want to do some more Hearthstone stuff with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I just need to play it more, and remember what all the cards do and all the strategy that I have to do. But yeah, I think doing that would be fun. I want to make some content around it, and then want to play some and for the YouTube channel, I want to make like videos on some of like the older games that came out like around the beginning of the PS4 and Xbox One, particularly The Order 1886 and Rise Son of Rome, just because I think those are very like interesting video games in the history of video games, where it's like they're almost like technical showcases more than games. And I want to like play them and kind of like see if there's any like, interesting video essay type, thing to mine there, where it's like, what are these games? What are these purpose? How did they go from the 360 PS3 generation to like the more modern game? Like, are they a bridge between that? Just because they're so like important for both of those consoles in the moment, but I think they've been like kind of forgotten to history. You know what I mean? So
I did see Age of Mythologies on Game Pass. So there's a remastered Age of Mythology out there now. I am tempted to play that and stream that. So it's another state.
So that's a strategy game I'm seeing.
It's like Age of Empires, except it was just it was a different game. It was called Age of Mythology because it involved like the gods, and you had the ability to like spawn in like certain gods and use like elemental like destruction and all that stuff. It was awesome. And the story mode in it, you play as like Achilles. It was like it was one of those games for PC that like that triggered me into like a downward spiral of getting into like fantasy and all that because of how awesome it was. So
yeah,
very cool to have that out. It's on Game Pass, so it's free. I love the Age of Empires series, so maybe I'll stream that.
Yeah, I was thinking so there's Crusader Kings, and they have a Game of Thrones mod. So I like downloaded that and I went to start it, and like it very clear is like, oh, if you're downloading a mod, you must know how to play the game. So I like started and I was like, I don't have any idea what I'm doing here. So maybe one day I'll learn how to play that game. So just so I can play a Game of Thrones game,
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun when you get into it. A lot of like you could sit there for like 2.5 hours, build up your empire, and then just get completely wrecked in like 10 minutes.
It's like Civilization.
Yeah,
like,
I was always a Civ guy. I played Civ 4 and Civ 5 a lot in college.
Yeah, no, Civilization's super goated. Love all of those games. I was also a big Risk guy. I loved the board game Risk one, but also there was a 360 Xbox arcade version of Risk, and like I used to have like friends over and we'd play like 6-person. It would be like Survivor, like we would get like that into it. So if we could like find an online Risk, we should do that for a stream with a bunch of people.
There has to be some sort of like independent or modded version of another game that we can do that is like Survivor that we can stream. Because obviously we had the Survivor French version that was very, very disappointing.
Not what we wanted it to be. Yeah.
But we'll have to research that because I would be very down to do a stream of that one night of all of us. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I mean there definitely are social strategy games. I know Blood on the Clock Tower is a popular one right now, which I'd be down to get into. Obviously, there's Among Us that was super popular and is
Yeah.
still pretty popular. I think
All just variations of Mafia. Werewolf,
we could also just play. Yeah, we could also just play Mafia.
Secret Hitler, like all these games,
Mhm.
like Avalon. They're literally all the same game with different dressing.
I'd like to come up with our own version of like our own twist on it, and then invite people to come in person to play it to hopefully like get some production experience down for when we make Reaper. I think that'd be fun. So
We'll
look out
say
for that.
even just a live stream of like Backyard Survivor will be enough for me.
I mean, we could do that easily.
I mean, look, Dylan, we have. If you want to go play Survivor, you can go play Survivor. As LRG is like you.
We can get you in the door.
Yeah. It's not hard. It's like
for one particular game, I should say, because I applied to another game this summer,
Mhm.
thinking like I'll obviously get on. Like one, it's in Massachusetts, and two, like I've played all these other games, like and. I got rejected, and they were like, "Oh, you should apply for Survivor New York." And it's like, I invented Survivor New York. How dare you? So I could get you into Survivor New York, and that's it.
Okay.
Then I got rejected from the All-Star version of the Durham Warrior Challenge, also. So I am as washed as can be for LRGs at this point. It's been a sobering few months for application.
I think Dylan could just get on one of his own accord regardless. Too.
Yeah, no, definitely much better chance than I have at this point.
I'll see, and I'll carry like a hidden camera that we can live stream on the channel.
Oh man, that'll be good. Good. All right. Well, this is fun. I'm really looking forward to doing these streams with both of you. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So, again, DJ Clubber Lang, pointed the wrong way on here. DJ Clubber Lang for Dylan, Trey Spades for Ben, and we could get everything for me. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Traders. We're committed to traders, it seems like. So traders.
Yeah, we're workshopping the title. By the end of this season of Survivor, we'll have a title, hopefully a logo to show off.
I think it perfectly falls right in between Survivor seasons, right? So perfect.
Yeah, we can just keep on, like it never has to stop.
Boston Rob with his fancy baseball cap.
Yeah, it's formal cap.
It's like a pure black, right? Like it's not really.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a Sox cap and it's just like the black one they do, or is it like actually like a plain black cap?
It looks like a plain black cap, but I guess it would be more so of an electric reveal if it is a Red Sox cap.
Oh, it would be. Yeah, you're right.
Or if it's like totally retro Boston Rob, where he has on the fucking Patriots one.
Ooh,
that'd be cool too.
Yeah, everyone forgets in our cases to reckon the Patriots.
He's shown a willingness to mix it up in photos, and then remember for Winners at War, he had like a white Red Sox cap on, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's gonna wear a different one," and then he didn't. He just wore a regular Boston Red Sox hat.
My gut tells me this is going to be a very, very big season for the traders. In the sense, obviously, I've never watched the show, but I think that's a testament
awesome.
to.
You should check it out. Yeah,
I think it's a testament to the people they have on the season. It's going to be a big pull for a lot of kind of people that aren't fully aware of what's going on. So that's very exciting. Is it week by week though? Because I think I saw the first the first season, the first 4 episodes released, but then after that,
that's how the second season did it well.
Yeah. Okay, so that'll be cool. We'll have a whole weekend.
We'll have a big episode for the
binging.
First. Yeah,
cool.
Do you think this is kind of out topic, but thinking of Boston Rob reminded me? Do you think they'd ever let anyone wear a professional sports hat again, other than Rob? Because we haven't seen one, and since like Steph wearing a Phillies hat was like the last one.
I think there's like a licensing issue now too, right? Because didn't someone recently have to block out their tattoo?
Yeah,
it was
maybe Survivor was just like willing to pay back in the day, and then like Legacy willing to pay for Boston Rob to have his hat.
Who was it that had like a John Deere tattoo recently?
Probably
someone had like a John Deere tattoo that had to be blocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but like I don't even know if they would like if I went on Survivor with this Uprising hat on, would they let me?
Well, I mean,
You know?
Boston Bars doesn't exist anymore. To be fair,
That's
so
true.
there's no one that can really sue them. So
Yeah,
There's
that's fair.
there's always someone. That's
Yeah, I'm sure Kraft's still
Grassroots is
unable
going
to-
to sue them for something that doesn't exist for a league that disbanded.
it's a big topic on Brian's videos too. He always gets called out on his
I don't. Well, that's actually part of my strategy. Is like if I wear these hats, people will comment. You know,
Mhm.
like oh, Uprising or Hunters is my other one. I also have the
You're a fusion art, right?
the Fusion. That was the first one I bought. That's just
Yeah.
in the other room, and then I have another Uprising that's like blue. And
Yeah, I
like,
have the blue uprising one, the blue and gray that I wear.
yeah, and I got an LA Valiant one, but it's green, so it's like hard to. I guess I could wear one. Maybe next week I'll wear like a green shirt or a yellow shirt with the green one to like try to coordinate.
Maybe I'll wear my uprising hat next week. So
Dylan, you gotta get one. They're hard to find. I was trying to.
Well, no, I have an uprising hat. I just
Yeah.
it's in the other room. I can go get it right now.
Yeah.
This is my favorite part of the episode. Where if we did have any listeners left, if they're listening to this point, they're like, when the fuck does Survivor come back?
They're here for us at this point, if they're here at all. But yeah, I was looking for a Sparks hat because I wear a lot of pink. Like, pink's one of my favorite colors, and I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have like a Sparks, like maybe a black one with just the Sparks logo like this, but I couldn't find anything, in stock. And they're not making more of them. So if anyone has a Sparks hat they want to sell me, hit me up. Send me a DM on Blue Sky at Brian Marr on there.
Some person in Guangzhou is gonna hit you up.
Yeah, right. That'd be great. Oh man. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you have a happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US. If you're not, just have a great Thursday, and we'll see you in the next one.